Hey, welcome back, guys. So today we are talking about Chase Bank, and more specifically, we are going to talk about can Chase Bank notarize documents at their branch. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So first off, I want to let you know that all Chase banks, they sometimes seems like they operate differently. So I think they all have the same policies. However, some managers interpret those policies differently. So just kind of keep that in mind as we talk through this. So let me go ahead and open up the Chase app now. Okay, so I have a little bit of experience with getting something notarized at Chase. And first off, I want to say yes, that is an option. Most Chase banks that I've been to and that I've spoken to, they usually do have a notary on staff. They can notarize documents for you. However, I would say it's not an enjoyable or convenient process, and I'm going to tell you why. So first off, when you go into a Chase bank, a lot of times it seems like those notaries that have a notary commission, at least here in California, they're really not experienced notaries. So I think that a lot of times the branch pays for their notary stamp, and they only use that notary stamp for a very select amount of documents. So anytime I've brought a notary form or something to be notarized into a Chase bank, a lot of times the notary is really confused. They look confused at the documents because it's not a Chase document. In fact, a lot of them look hesitant to sign the document and not really motivated to sign it. So again, I would say that yeah, you can get something notarized at Chase, but again, it's not an easy, enjoyable experience because a lot of times you're going to have to try to explain to them what the document is and almost prove to them that the document should be notarized. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to let you know is every time I've gone in to get something notarized at Chase, the notary looks really disinterested in helping out and doing the notary. And I can sort of understand why, because their job at the bank is not to notarize documents. Usually they're a teller or a loan representative or something like that. They have other things to do and deal with their other job function. And then I feel like every time I go in there with something to be notarized, they really look a little annoyed that I'm there with a document. So that's the second thing you kind of want to consider. It kind of feels like you're inconveniencing them when you bring a document into Chase to have it notarized. So the third thing I want to talk about is bringing a document into Chase to have it notarized. This kind of goes hand in hand with number two. They're not really interested in notarizing a document. In fact, it's probably last on their radar. So every time I've gone in there, I usually have to wait 30-45 minutes before I'm finished. So that's kind of a long time to have something notarized, especially since the process itself only takes about 2 or 3 minutes if it's just one document. But that coupled with the wait time and the explanation, usually I can count on being there for 30 to 45 minutes. Usually some of that time is just waiting in the lobby because there's maybe 1 or 2 notaries in the entire branch and they'll just get around to it when they have a moment. So that's the third thing you want to consider, is you may be there for a while to have that notarized. The fourth thing I want to talk about is the price. So the good thing about Chase, at least the branches close to me, they don't charge to have something notarized. So that's kind of nice, especially since here in California, each notary stamp is $15. So if you're going to have 4 documents notarized, that could easily be $60. Now, I guess you just kind of have to decide, is that worth waiting around for 30 or 45 minutes and dealing with someone who's kind of annoyed that you're there? Maybe, maybe not. For me, for the most part, I haven't gone back for about a year and a half. A lot of times I'd rather just pay the $15 and have somebody who's well versed in the different forms that I'm having notarized and also a little more excited about notarizing the document than someone extremely annoyed right in front of me. The last thing I want to talk about is there have been a couple of times where the notary at Chase really was hesitant to sign the document. And the reason for that is they were not familiar with that document. So because of that, I can understand there's liability involved, but the notary process is usually about the same, especially throughout here in California. So I think that it would be more typical, but again, there were a couple of times where the notary almost didn't sign my document, which is kind of annoying, especially since you've already waited 30 or 45 minutes just to be turned away. So just be aware that that is one risk that you run if you will be having something notarized at Chase. All right, and one last thing I want to talk about, one bonus thing, is the notarization process. So because of my job, I do have a lot of documents that are notarized, and I am very familiar with the notarization process. And going back to one of the beginning points, these notaries usually are not well versed in different documents or even the notary process. A lot of times it's just so they can notarize Chase documents. So one document in particular, I remember the notary was nice. However, as we were completing the notarization process, a lot of the required notary steps were not followed. In fact, the document itself was notarized when it was not supposed to be, so that person put one stamp on each page. Now, I don't want to tell anyone how to do their job, so I just kind of left it is. And especially since the document was going out of state, I didn't say anything. I just kind of let it go. Fortunately, the document didn't get kicked back, but if the notary does the notarization incorrectly, you do run that risk of it being sent back from wherever you're sending it to. So just kind of keep that in mind. So there you have it. That's my opinion on getting something notarized at Chase Bank. So to make a long story short, yes, it is an option. Yes, it is included and it's free, which is nice, but there are a couple of things you want to consider before you go into your branch to have something notarized at Chase. Hopefully you found it useful. If so, I hope that you do me a favor and click that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching.